Yuri Mihalёv, and he will present his book. And it is translated into English. This is an English translation. It is published at Elsevier Publishing House, and the presentation of Whales of the Southern Ocean book. Yuri, will you speak to us, or we launch the pre-recorded video? Tell us what to do. Yeah, probably you are muted. Okay, the mic is on. Will you go live where we shall start the pre-recorded? And the T for the sperm whale and registergrams. I will go live. I don't need my pre-recorded. I don't need the pre-recorded video. Okay, please go ahead. And this is my book, Springer Publishing House, Netherlands. The book is translated into English, but it's not the copy-paste of my book. I added 3 more chapters and I revised the content. This monograph relates to all the whales. I will just give you some of the interesting highlights, because I cannot give you the entire content of the book within 10 minutes. So in the book, I continue analyzing relevant data on whaling, commercial harvesting, and the initiator was Alexei Vladimirovich Yablokov, and he reported to the ministry, and upon his statement, the working group was based Chorny, Ervizin, Tormosov, Shevlagin, and Mihalёv are the participants of the working group. We gathered raw data. We had books of biologists, notebooks of biologists, and whale passports and reports of scientific groups that worked with the fleet. Altogether, we obtained 72,000. The harvesting of whales, 72,000. And then this is by 23.2 thousand whales, then quota allows. However, this is not the entire counterfeit data. They prohibited, they banned the small size, the breastfeeding females were harvested, and the locations were of harvesting, the sizes, everything was given in a wrong way. All the data that was submitted to the International Statistics Bureau, they were counterfeited, false data, and you cannot make use of this data because it's false. What was the purpose of our working group? We wanted to collect the relevant, reliable data on a number of harvested whales and to assess the resource, the stock of whales. And the point 2, we wanted to be a role model for other whaling states, so they also present reliable information. We were naive. No other state decided to present the data. Maybe Japanese colleagues, they presented some of the data. Although we had 17 whaling fleets operating, none of the countries presented data. The more so, the Soviet Union is depicted as a major violator, poacher, and the country that does whaling with all sorts of violations. Our data was presented at the International Whaling Commission conferences. 2 collections of works were published, and reliable data on harvesting was included in these articles. And we made presentations at different conferences, and we made different publications, highly regarded publications in Nature, for example, where Alexei Yablokov published his first article. And we proved that the whaling was done with the violations. It's not possible to deal with all the issues and questions within 10 minutes, just the highlights. We analyzed the prenatal growth of whales, and it turned out to be monoparabolic. Allometry of growth was studied. We identified 3 embryonic development periods, pre-fetus and fetus period, and we calculated the duration of these fetal development periods, and we proved that in the growth, the geometric similarity, the geometric shape of the body is not maintained. Distribution of whales. Distribution is shown for more than 50 maps, including the major attention that was drawn to Arabian Sea distribution of whales, where such bright, also humpback, sperm whale, and humpback whales are encountered, and also the minke whale. Now, these populations, they have a northern hemisphere breeding cycle, and the differences are so dramatic that humpback whales need either singled out as individual subspecies, or we need to, I don't know how to say it, to bring back the name to this species that Gervais announced in the 1085, a different name. The small right whales, they about not just in the coastal area, but in the high sea as well, in Atlantic Ocean. And the migration wave was shown from the Western African coast to Tristan da Cunha Islands. And I should mention orcas as well. When you placed the yellow corpus in reproductive capacity, depending on the length of orcas, we have 2 peaks. One is 8.5 meters long, and another peak for the orcas of 6.5 meters long. And it became clear that in Antarctic, we have 2 subspecies of orcas, Arsenos orca and Nana. There are 2 different orcas. And Tinroof Institute, within 1 year, was studying the teeth of orcas, they confirmed that there are two different forms of killer whales, of orcas, but further studies, these are the presentations, reports that were made in Berlin in 2003, and they studied the white spots on the whale's body, and they even believe that there are 3 individual forms of orcas, of killer whales. Biology cannot be studied without knowing the age. That's why I want to focus a little bit on the age. You have 1 minute left. And how to determine the age. We did it by the registergrams, by matching this registergrams. This is an original technique which is used in benthrochronology, in Kulchin works. And we pointed that the whales lifespan is 50 to 60 years. This is the lifespan for the whales. And as they grow, they are changing, and the surface deposition on their body is changing. And the baleen whales, they don't have any jaws, they have 2 pits. And we pointed that these 2 cavities, or pits, both tooth whales and baleen whales, they have these 2 pits in their jaws. The histology proved that Fata Pacini bodies are there, and we proposed that these formations in the jaw, they needed to find the teeth while breastfeeding. This is important to identify the nipples, and the fat content is 28% in the whale milk, and during the breastfeeding, milk is mixed with the marine water, with the seawater, and it explains why the kidneys in embryos, young animals, kidneys are enlarged because there is a water and salt water exchange. So I just have to thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I'm ready to entertain these questions. And we have 1 minute. It's a lengthy question. It's more like a message from Ulichov. Hello, Yuri Alexeyevich. In what way can we order your book? And several years ago, I read the abstract of your doctoral thesis, and I received your letter. I received a letter from you, and I answered where to go, whom to contact with. Unfortunately, I cannot send my own copy because I still need to pay back to the sponsors, to my scientific opponents. You can, to find the book, to order the book, you need to talk to the Springer publishing house, but the book is expensive, $200, I think, or 150 euro. If I have some stock of these books, perhaps we can discuss it, but I cannot make any promises on giving a book to you. We have 1 more question. Yuri, hello, I'm interested in the data on the growth of whales. I'd better buy a Russian version. Or if there are less data on the growth of whales, then English will work fine. This is from Andrew Boltnev. We can talk to Andrew Boltnev face to face. And in Russian, I have only 2 books in Russian, and I will never give it away. But in English, let's see how many books do I have. Once I pay back to the sponsors, to the scientific components. If you are interested in the age, maybe I can send my articles on the whale's age, how to determine the exact age of individual animals. We can talk on a one-to-one basis. No more questions are in the chat. So no hands raised. And Yuri Alexeyevich, thank you for the work of your life. And it was very pleasing to know that you remember about Alexei Yablokov, the ones who were standing at the roots of this process, who started talking about what was happening during the harvesting. It would have been very beneficial if everyone opened their cards, if everyone reveals the true data. But I believe what was done by Yablokov, by you and Tormesov is very important. Zemsky is another contributor to it. And this is becoming a part of history because harvesting was really commercially important throughout the centuries, and many populations were even extinguished. And we need to tell this story because for the human history, whales, they played a very important role. And now we are trying to recover these species. And we're talking about marine protected areas. It was very suitable to mention how to bring whales back to such an environment where they can fully recover and stay away from the endangered state. Couple more words. I failed to mention that my proposal is that Arabian Sea to be converted in the experimental commercial harvesting polygon. There are special conditions for the whale species, and we can model and watch how they are recovering. And Alexei Yablokov, both doctoral and PhD thesis were devoted to morphology. And I said there are like formations in the jaws of the whales. He said where these formations can be placed. And we were sitting in the kitchen of his apartment. We were sitting in the kitchen, and the dog, Bulka, the dog was sitting on my knees and biting his feet. And he was yelling, this dog is trying to bite me, but these people are already dead and I'm next one to die, and please don't get in front of me.